Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 4th episode of Season 3 of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. Posting a little late this week. We've been drafting and getting ready for fantasy football season. I am jazzed.
Literally just finished a draft, then did the podcast afterward.
Yes, and we have 2 more tomorrow. So, busy draft tomorrow. Weekend. I actually have 3 tomorrow, too. I have a 16-teamer in the evening.
It's like, one starts at 11, and another one starts at 12, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing 2 at once.
Yes, you absolutely will.
So, I'm going to have to turn the sound on so I hear it going off when it's my turn, because if not, I ain't going to hear nothing.
Luckily, you've got your computer and your phone or tablet. You can do 2 at a time. Just keep the dog and kids out of the room.
Yes, exactly. All will be well. So, cool. Well, so this is the last podcast before our prediction podcast next week, where we'll go over who we think is going to win the divisions, who we think is going to make the playoffs, how we think the playoffs will pan out. We're going to go off some of the cuts and the pickups from the 53-man roster cuts this week. There's some I would like to talk about. I know I've been reading them as they've happened. There's a lot for the Lions I really like, so there is that. But maybe that's all I really want to talk about, but we'll do that next week.
I there's nothing really that stood out to me, but yeah, we can discuss in depth some of those pickups. I mean, the Commanders picked up a receiver I like, but
just put that section in there, and I will fill it out in the notes.
There you go. You just talk about the Lions, and I'll go grab a drink or something. But yeah, so this is our last preview, or I guess review pod of the offseason before we get into preview mode next week, and then we'll just be right into reaction mode each week. So to start off for the top 5, we did Super Bowl contenders last week for each conference. This week I thought about the opposite. Who are the top 5 worst teams in our mind in each conference? So I'll start off with the AFC, and it really comes down to the health of Anthony Richardson, but I'm going to go with the Colts, because if he gets banged up and misses time like he did last week, they no longer have Gardner Minshew, and I don't see them making a playoff run with, what the hell's his name? Oh, blanking. The guy that was in Joe Flacco, I believe, is their quarterback now. So.
Yep, Joe Flacco back up.
Yeah, the AFC's tough. I mean, the AFC doesn't, is a pretty well stacked conference, but and that's what makes the Colts, unfortunately, towards the bottom if they don't have Anthony Richardson running around doing his thing.
Joe Flacco is 39 years old. I'm like, that guy's got to be like 40, right? No, he's 39.
He's damn close. Yeah.
Not quite 40 yet, but he's getting there. So, yeah, I could see that for sure. I like the fact that they had Jonathan Taylor from the jump this year. That'll be helpful. That'll take a lot off of the pressure off of Anthony Richardson that he didn't have when he got hurt. So hopefully that keeps him from getting hurt, and they don't have that issue, because I could see them being a good team this year. But definitely if Anthony Richardson goes down, that's going to be big trouble for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just it reminds me a lot of the Commanders and RG3, and after a great rookie season, they went, I think, 3-14 or 3-13 the next year, because RG3 missed some time, and when you don't have that electric presence at quarterback, it really drags you down. So, I don't know. I do like Jonathan Taylor, but again, the AFC is pretty heavy conference, so Jonathan Taylor alone is not going to get them to the playoffs.
I'm going to say, if I were to pick another team worse than the Colts in that division that's not the Titans, I would have picked the Jags.
Yeah, I like the Jags to at least be hovering around 500.
I do not believe currently that Trevor Lawrence is as good as everyone says he is. Like he doesn't. His team doesn't do anything even when he plays full season, and I just don't know how good they are. They lost Calvin Ridley. They're replacing with Gabe Davis, but who knows? So we'll see. All right, my first one for this one might surprise people because they have a lot of talent, but that's the Vikings. And the reason for that is because, everybody's got talent in the NFC North, but everyone else has their quarterback. J.J. McCarthy going down. When Cousins was down last year, they did not play well. And they had, Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall is the big one I remember, filling in at quarterback, as well as, I don't remember the other guy's name. But now you want Sam Darnold to be your guy for an entire season. I do not see that team doing well. I'm sure Justin Jefferson will still get his stats, but I don't think they're going to be a good team. Nick Mullins, that was the other one.
Yeah.
Apparently, one of the signings they did have, which might actually give them some type of hope, but that might be preseason hope and no hope at all. They did sign Brett Rypien, who did crazy good in the preseason, so who knows? But yeah, I don't see them doing well.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, I like Justin Jefferson, but Aaron Jones is getting older, and Sam Darnold's nothing. So yeah, I think they'll definitely be one of the 5 worst teams in the conference, if not the league entirely.
They don't have Danielle Hunter anymore on their line. Like, there's just a lot missing.
And they play in a very tough division against an improved Bears team. Lions are already good, so yeah, they're going to get beat up. Number 4 for me in the AFC is the Raiders. I like Devontae Adams, and I don't think Gardner Minshew is terrible, and I think the defense is improved, but they play against the Chiefs. The Chargers should be better. The Broncos, who knows? And honestly, the AFC is just tough, man. I mean, the Raiders in the NFC could probably, if the Raiders were in the NFC South, they'd probably go 12-5 and win the division. But in the AFC West, yeah, they could have a tough time if Minshew doesn't have the same magic he did last season in Indy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I agree with you. If I were doing the AFC, they would have been on my list, which is funny because their defensive line is crazy now with Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby. Yeah. And then I like their receiver crew, Adams, and I always liked Jacoby Myers, even when he was on the Patriots. Then they got that rookie tight end that they drafted, even though they had Michael Mayer. So
yeah, Brock Bowers.
They got plenty of options on offense, but yeah, the fact that they went with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, who couldn't get it done with lots of time to try last year, if they had done something at quarterback, I think they probably wouldn't be one of the worst. But Gardner Minshew was good last year for the Colts, filling in, but I think he's just going to be okay again this year for a very average result.
Yep. So we'll absolutely agree.
So my number 4 is the Commanders. I put them on here. NFC is pretty stacked, to be honest, but somebody's got to lose, right? So despite that, I couldn't put anyone else from the NFC North. NFC South, I have a hard time with some of the teams in there not knowing what they're going to be. You could probably have put the entire NFC South on this list, but I put the Washington Commanders at number 4, which I would not be surprised if they weren't on the list. But here's the thing: I always have hope for your team since I'm not the super fan, and every week they lose. So yeah. I hope Jaden Daniels is good. I love that they signed Eckler because I love Eckler. He's a great running back. Every year I draft Terry McLaurin in leagues because everyone sleeps on him, but he never does anything for me. So I don't know. I don't know what the Commanders are going to do.
The Commanders are in year one of a rebuild. So, I mean, they're going to be better than they were last year. The problem is the offensive line is still a question mark, and we have the worst secondary in the league. Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste are the two worst starting corners in the league. So, yes, even if the offense is better and can score 20, 24 points a game, our defense is going to give up 30 to 35 points a game. So, it's okay. It's year one of a rebuild. We've made some good progress, but there was not a lot of talent on this team. So, it's going to take some time for them to get there.
The other thing that scares me about year one of a rebuild with them is that the coach that they got was like their last choice at the last possible second. So who knows
that's
how
not
long
what they say.
Yeah, okay. Like we all don't know.
Yeah, no, they wanted him all along.
Yeah, when the Lions offense coordinator turned them down, that didn't just throw a wrench in everything and they went after someone else.
Nope, not at all.
So, yeah. I would be worried that he's not going to be there after a couple of years and they're rebuilding again. So that's what I would worry about.
I think they'll at least give him 2 or 3 seasons. The new ownership and Adam Peters are not Dan Snyder and, oh my God, we're going to fire you after 1 season type thing anymore. They're going to give him a couple seasons to rebuild. They know how shit the roster was because of Ron Rivera. I'm excited to see, Jaden Daniels develop. Defensive line and linebackers should be pretty good. But again, unless they pull a miracle and turn Emmanuel Forbes into a starting corner, because he looks like an all-time draft bust at this point. Yeah, we'll see.
Nope.
All right, my number 3, sticking in the AFC. Oh, I guess this actually is the AFC South. I'm going with the Titans. I don't hate Will Levis. I just don't know about Will Levis at this point. They signed Calvin Ridley, which is cool. DeAndre Hopkins is still there, but man, he's getting old. They've got Treylon Burks, who's done nothing. They signed Tony Pollard. Yay, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there's just not a lot really about the Titans that excite me. And Will Levis, he could. Maybe he makes a leap in year 2, but there's a reason he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick, whichever it was. Like if he was a solid guy, he would have gone earlier. So not really sure what to expect. But again, I mean, the AFC, there's going to be teams that, someone's going to finish 4 and 13, that nobody expected. And it could be any of these guys.
While I do like Tony Pollard more than Derrick Henry as far as younger and probably expect more out of them, Tony Pollard hasn't done anything since he left the Cowboys. Like, he's looking like, I don't know. Where was he at last year?
He was in Dallas last year still.
Oh, was he? Okay, so this is his first year away from him. His first season as the starter there. He had 1,000 yards, but I mean, I don't know.
He was good as a backup when the Cowboys had a great offensive line, and then as a starter when they had a mediocre offensive line, he was pedestrian. And now he goes, and I'm sure he'll split carries with Tajay Spears, but I mean, he's not an exciting running back by any means.
I forgot Tajay was there. Yeah, I don't know, man. They're just, I don't think Will Levis is their future, so that just puts them in a spot where I think they're going to struggle. Yeah, they were going to be on my list before I realized I had the NFC.
Yes, yeah, that's why we both know we agree on this one, because these guys were on both our lists at one point. Yeah, I don't know. Will Levis hasn't played enough for me to make a definitive answer, but I wasn't overly impressed by what I saw last year. So,
yeah, I'm with you. Number 3 on my list is the New York Giants, because while they did draft Malik Neighbors, they didn't sign anybody else, and everybody knows their wide receiver crew has not panned out, not done anything. and not been good. So, I mean, what do you expect? You still have Daniel Jones. You've lost,
Saquon.
Yeah, you lost Saquon Barkley, replaced him with Devin Singletary, and I just don't see that offense being very good. I'm sure Neighbors will have a good rookie season. If he can become the number one guy, which he should have good stats because nobody else seems to want to catch the ball there, but their offense looks bad. Defense has some decent people on it, but I don't know. I think the Giants are in for a worse season than last year. When last year, they had 6 wins?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones, this is his last chance at this point. If they have another struggling year, they're going to take a quarterback next year. And yeah, Devin Singletary is not a replacement for Saquon Barkley. Like, he's a backup at best. So that's not going to go well for them. I agree. They're going to have a bad year. But, I mean, they play the Eagles and Cowboys twice a season. So it's like, yeah, that's 4 losses right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
My number 2 is the Denver Broncos. Another team, in my opinion, with quarterback questions. Bo Nix looked good in the preseason, looked good in college, but again, it hasn't been professional games yet, so we'll see. Their running backs, they've got 2, but neither one of them has really shown much. Javonte Williams, in my opinion, has been a huge disappointment in the last 2 years when everybody hypes him up and then he does nothing.
No stats ever.
Yeah.
I am glad I've never drafted him for.
I've drafted him every season because everybody's always like, "Oh, he's so good, and then it's mediocre at best. I'm like, great. Well, maybe he'll break out this year when I don't touch him in any league. They got rid of Jerry Jeudy, so they've still got Courtland Sutton. They cut Tim Patrick and I think Marvin Mims. They drafted Troy Franklin, which was a teammate of Bo Nix in college, which is cool. It's something to keep an eye on. But, and again, they play in the AFC West. They're going to lose the the Chiefs at least, probably the Chargers, who should be much better than they were. Unless Bo Nix hits the ground running and everybody's in 6 months, everyone's like, he should have gone number 1. I think they're going to have a bad year.
Yeah, they would have to. Javonte Williams would finally have to break out. Josh Reynolds or Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin would have to have a monster year next to Courtland Sutton to have Sutton not be double teamed all the time. It's just there's a lot that would need to happen for them to be good, and I just don't see that happening. So I think they'll be decent. Decent as in, let's see, last year they were 8-9. I would say 6 wins still, but I don't think that they're not going to do anything.
No,
that threw me off a second there when I looked over and they were 8-9. I forget that they had Russell Wilson and they played a lot better in the second half of the season, but I thought they were worse than that last year. Yeah, they're not going to get back to 8 wins, at least not next year.
And the only caveat is if Bo Nix does play out of his mind and everyone anoints him as the next Mahomes or whatever, then sure. But at this point, it's I'm not gonna bank on that happening. And in my opinion, looking at that roster, it's no, they're a bottom 5 team in that conference.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you. My number 2 in the NFC is the Arizona Cardinals, who everyone besides Arizona people seem to be hyping up. Because while, yes, Kyler Murray's going to play an entire season, and yes, we got Marvin Harrison, they still have the defense, for the most part, that they had last year that was not good, at all. And then throw on top of that the fact that B.J. Ojulari got hurt. Darius Robinson is now starting the season on the IR. And for the first time, again, what's his face? Gardeck is starting on the offensive line. And if Gardeck is starting on the defensive line, to start the season, you're already off to a bad pace. And as much as I like Gardeck, he's not an everyday starter, and you can't count on that guy to pressure the quarterback every single play. So they helped a little bit in their corners, because corners was a massive thing for them too, signing Sean Murphy-Bunting and drafting Max Melton. But Max Melton's a giant question mark, and Murphy-Bunting can't cover everyone on the field. Budda Baker's not hurt to start the season. I don't know. I just feel like their defense is going to hold them down, even if their offense decides to go crazy.
Yeah.
They're going to be in a boat race every single week, and the Cardinals aren't built for boat races.
It's interesting because they, Kaiser White played well last year coming over from Philly for Jonathan Gannon. Matt Wilson, somebody that's got a lot of height. Yeah. So it's like they have a lot of unknowns on the defense, and if Jonathan Gannon can get them to all play up, maybe they're a middle of the pack defense, which if the offense delivers as a top 10, with Kyler and Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride and Connor, it's like got a lot of weapons. Like there's a path for the Cardinals to have a good season. But again, you're talking about they play the 49ers, they play the Rams, the Seahawks, they play the Lions, I know. Like they play the NFC North, which is a tough division. So yeah, it's they just have a tough schedule. And the thing about the Cardinals that I know is that when I'm at the games, they lose. And since I'll be going to like 4 or 5 games this season, that's 4 or 5 losses right off the bat. So sorry, Cardinals.
For sure. The bad luck charm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just on me. But to be fair, most of the games I'm going to, I'll be rooting for the opponent anyways. So my number one is, in my opinion, one of the worst teams in the league, and definitely, a team that I'll be looking at to have the number one pick, and that's the Patriots. I like Drake May. It's really all I can say about their roster that I like. I don't know Gerard Mayo as a coach, what he's going to have. I know Belichick is a great coach, so they lost him. Ramondre Stevenson, all right, solid, not exciting. They've got a bunch of receivers. I liked Jalen Polk in college, see if he can flash in the NFL. Could not name a defender on their entire team. The Patriots, after 20 years of being in the upper echelon, are completely rebuilding now. Sucks for them, but we've all been there.
They're a boat race as well, whether Brissett or May's starting, because I think Mayo said he knows who's going to be the starter, but hasn't said it yet.
He announced Jacoby Brissett this week. Okay. But Drake May will play at some point. Jacoby Brissett's not going to run away with that job for the entire season.
I don't think he should have started in the first place, but you already know that you lost a lot of games last year. You are looking for a quarterback. You drafted a quarterback, and then now you're starting a guy, a journeyman quarterback, as your future. Why not just play the guy? Your job is hinging on this, Gerard Mayo. And you chose Brissett over Drake May, the guy you drafted in the first round. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I just play the rookie and let him get experience. I mean, and there's always the people that argue, well, they should sit on the bench for a year. It's like, yeah, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Like, it just...
That doesn't work in the NFL anymore. Everyone that says that can just stop saying it, because the way the NFL works now is...
Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, those are the two go-tos.
The way the NFL works now is you play your rookie quarterbacks, because most of the time you need to find out if they're good, and if they are good, you need to spend the money on other players to win yourself a Super Bowl while they're cheap. If you wait 3 years for them to be good, then you have Jordan Love, who you just paid to be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, who played 1 season, and you don't have any window to spend all that money on other players to put around him to try to win a Super Bowl. So if you think that the rookie quarterback should sit and learn, you've got an old mindset that just does not work in the NFL anymore.
No, I completely agree, especially when people use the argument, well, Jordan Love sat and look at him. It's like, oh, he was mediocre for half a season? Like, that's
good
what you
the second
want
half
out of your
and
rookie?
got best quarterback in the league money? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
He sat for 3 seasons and, wasted a rookie contract, and now you're paying him to be number one overpaid guy. It's Drake May, and the thing is, Drake May will start by week 9. Well, what the hell was the point of sitting him for 7-8 weeks? Like, just play the guy.
No, exactly. Unless he's hurt, which I don't think he is. So
no.
Yeah, but the same thing goes. I think Daniel Jones started when he was a rookie, but he had one good year, and he got paid, and now look at them.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to have more look at people than bigger sample size before you start spending generational money, higher money than NFL's ever been paid on these people.
Agreed.
My number 1 is the Carolina Panthers, because despite the fact that they did get better, in that entire division of bad teams, they're still the worst team, I think.
Yeah.
I
think the Panthers will be drafting a new quarterback next year. I think they end up with 1 or 2 overall, and they take Carson back.
Well, it's like they drafted a wide receiver, cool, but then they also let go one that they drafted a couple years ago. The only veteran receiver they got was Deontay Johnson, who's a good receiver, but your number 2 is still Adam Thielen, and as good as he was on the Vikings last year, everyone was looking at him before the second half of the season like a complete waste of money. And that's because he's old, right? And so who knows if he's going to do what he was able to do the second half of last year again this year. You did not sign another tight end. Tommy Tremble, okay. Wait, you did. You got Jatavian Sanders, who I like, but he's listed 3rd on your depth chart. And then Jonathan Brooks looks like he's going to be a good running back. Hurt, though, so that's trouble to start the season. Yeah, so they didn't do much, if anything, to get better around a young quarterback that looked like complete bad. I'll just use that word.
You can't say ass on the podcast?
I can. I just didn't. So, yeah. I don't know. I think the Panthers will be bad again.
Yeah, I honestly, truly believe the Panthers will be picking 1 or 2. It'll be either them or the Patriots. The Patriots just took Drake May. They're not going to draft somebody new. But the Panthers, after 2 seasons of Bryce Young, the Cardinals gave up on Josh Rosen after 1 and took Murray. There's no reason the Panthers can't take Carson Beck 1 or 2.
And that is why you play the rookie quarterback.
Yep. Because that way you know if they're going to be good.
Yeah. Because if you're playing Andy Dalton and Bryce Young is sitting, now you've wasted 3 years.
Yeah.
So.
And who knows? Andy Dalton could get them 7 wins, and now you don't have a chance at a quarterback. If they stick with Bryce Young all season and end up with 3 or 4 wins, it's like, Carson Beck, Shawnae Sanders. I truly, if there was a way for me to bet on who would be the starting quarterback next season for the Panthers, I would put the field over Bryce Young.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
All right, let's dive into news. So we're not going to talk about cuts today. We'll save that for next week. Big news, though, Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb both signed extensions, meaning that they, no reason to hold out anymore. Jamar Chase, still up in the air, still hasn't practiced. Coach said he'd be there for week 1, and then the next day admitted that he put his foot in his mouth and has no clue. So something to monitor as we lead into the season and all these fantasy football drafts. Is it worth taking a chance on Chase, or does he pull Le'Veon Bell?
That did not work out for Le'Veon Bell, so he better hope he doesn't.
No, it did not.
Basically, Le'Veon Bell's entire career went downhill from that moment.
Yep, he sat out, and then the rest of the league just sat him out for the rest of his career. They were like, we're fine, you can stay on the bench. Backup running backs Elijah Mitchell and A.J. Dillon both went to season-ending IR. I had no idea either one was even injured, and then they both ended their season. So, little shake-up for the running back depth charts in Green Bay and San Francisco. And then notable news to me personally, Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley, who was cut by the Ravens and went to, I think, the Browns, is now back to the Ravens practice squad.
By the way, I'm going to talk about all the different options next week of quarterbacks that were cut, that the Cardinals did not sign as their backup to keep Clayton Tune, and Huntley was another one. I'm like, you got all these quarterbacks that were just cut that are good and have been good, and you didn't sign any of them. Okay,
they apparently see something in Clayton Tune that nobody else does.
Nobody else sees. Like what?
All right. So
for all the Dolphins haters, or people that thought that McDaniels was on the hot seat because they haven't won in the playoffs, he was extended through 2028, which I'm happy for the Dolphins and Dolphin fans, because I think Mike McDaniels is one of the best coaches in the NFL. So
he is, and I'm amazed by people who think, we keep making the playoffs, we need to change our coach. Like, do you know what it's like to not make the playoffs for years at a time? Like, just enjoy being there, and then after maybe 5 or 6 seasons, you can worry about, we haven't won a Super Bowl yet, maybe we need to make a change. I would kill for a playoff appearance, much less back-to-back playoff appearances.
Yeah, exactly. And having one of the most prolific offenses all season to watch.
Led the league in rushing and passing in one season. Like, who does that?
Exactly.
Spoiled-ass fan base.
So now the question is, how long does Debo stay? Or do they trade Ayuk on his new contract?
Did Debo just get a new deal like last season?
Pretty sure he did. But eventually, they have like 4 people they have to pay coming up.
Well, they have to pay Brock Purdy, which is going to be a lot of money at this point.
And they still haven't paid Trent Williams.
They won't pay Trent Williams. He's over 30. They'll let him go. I don't know. Debo.
That puts
Debo
a big dent in your prolific offense. Honestly.
Yeah, no, it does. I could see Debo possibly getting traded after this season.
I was like, one of them's going.
Yeah, you can't pay both, and Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy
and Bosa, and who needs a contract.
Yeah. So yeah, we've all played Madden. We know that it's just at a certain point becomes impossible.
Yep. Exactly.
So preseason week 3 depth charge. Neither one of us hit it. I only got one right.
I mean, I was so fucking close.
Yeah.
Of course, the Cardinals screwed me.
I feel bad because I even
watched that
against yours, and I ended up with the single one I got right was the Broncos beating the Cardinals, and that's what screwed you. And I feel kind of responsible.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, it's the Cardinals, man. They just don't win.
It's also the Commanders who won.
That was shocking.
So, yeah. If they had just won that plus 62-20 was looking really nice.
Yeah, that would have been a hell of a purse to take home before the season starts.
Exactly.
Well, next week we'll have our week 1 Thursday night foreplay for the Chiefs-Ravens game. I'm looking forward to that. Getting more into the props instead of just picking teams to win. So
I'm super excited for football now. We got our fantasy drafts going on. I just got my Sunday ticket renewed. I'm ready to go.
Nice. I'm excited. I like daily fantasy football I've gotten into last season and actually won a little bit of money. Not $1 million. I wouldn't be sitting here if I did, but
I've been doing that with baseball.
It's fun, man. Especially
I won $10 of the 10 that I put in, so I got my money back.
The cool thing I love to do in daily fantasy is if I'm playing against somebody in multiple leagues, I play that person in daily fantasy, so that if they go off against me, I'm making money off it. So it's like hedging my bets. So it's kind of I enjoy doing that. But all right, let's dive into our very last divisional review, starting with the AFC West. Kansas City Chiefs won the division last year at 11-6. I did not remember that they only won 11 games. Went on to win the Super Bowl, of course.
Oh, I did. They were bad most of the season. Yeah. Like, the fact they won the Super Bowl was surprising. Mahomes had one of his worst seasons as a quarterback.
I remember that, but for some reason I was like, I still thought they got to like 13 wins. But
said they lost the first game against the Lions. I think that they were like, I don't remember what their record was to start. They were like the first 5 weeks of the season, everyone was wondering what was wrong with them.
So, Super Bowl hangover, but of course it didn't last.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious to see after 2 straight Super Bowls and playing 19 games, 2 straight seasons.
So, okay, I'm misremembering because they lost to the Lions and then they went on to win 6 games, and then all the losses were at the end of the season. So it was going into the Super Bowl.
2 years ago, the last time they won a Super Bowl, they really struggled. Because I remember they were like 3-5 at one point, I thought. When they won like their first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Justin Wilson, Nick Allegretti, and Jonathan Smith on the offensive line, L'Jarius Sneed, Willie Gay.
But Kadarius Toney's addition by subtraction.
Yeah, I mean he's a big name, which is why he's included. But they signed Hollywood Brown, and then drafted Xavier Worthy, signed Irv Smith. Got Carson Wentz as a backup. I mean, realistically, if Mahomes went down, that's the end of their season anyways.
Who's the guy they just signed? That guy should be the backup. Bailey Zappi should be the backup over Carson Wentz.
I mean, he might be listed as number 2 at this point.
Not on ESPN right now. He's not even listed, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown.
I do not like Xavier Worthy.
You don't? He's a speedster.
Yeah, so were all those wide receivers that the Raiders drafted. Not to mention Xavier Worthy is tiny.
Sure, he is.
Guy, let me see his stats here. Where is he? He is 5'11", 160 pounds.
Damn. Yeah, that's pretty skinny. No wonder he's so fast.
Yeah, exactly. So let's hope he stays healthy, and then on top of that, doesn't turn out to be Hayward Bay or that other guy that they drafted.
Ross.
Yeah. I've stayed away from him. There was no way I was drafting him in fantasy. As far as
I mean, he's not going to be Tyreek Hill, but he might be catch a 60-yard touchdown. I'm not. I like Rashee Rice. I drafted him in a league.
I think Hollywood Brown's going to have a good season when he's not hurt. I think that's their best addition there.
Hollywood, we will miss him in Arizona. So the over-under for the Chiefs is 11.5. They won 11 games last year, so it's at 11.5. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say they get to 12.
Yeah, we have yet to see if their receivers are going to drop passes like they did last year. So I'm going to pretend like they're going to catch them and say over.
All right, both going over. We'll see if they can win 3 Super Bowls in a row out there in Kansas City.
Well, I hope they don't, but I still think they're going to be good.
Me too. Yeah. Next up, Las Vegas Raiders finished the season at 8-9 in second place. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo, who was their starter, Josh Jacobs, who was their starter, Hunter Renfrow, Austin Hooper, Jerry Tillery. Signed Gardner Minshew, who's going to be their new starting quarterback. Harrison Bryant, Christian Wilkins on the defensive line's big. Drafted Brock Bowers, that's huge. But their over-under on wins on FanDuel is 6.5. FanDuel has no faith in the Raiders.
Neither do I. Under.
I'm going under too. I had talked about it. Just they were in my top 5.
Yep, exactly.
Going under. Sorry, Vegas. All right. Next up, Denver Broncos also finished 8-9. They lost Russell Wilson, who's their starter. Traded Jerry Jeudy. Lloyd Cushenberry, Cameron Fleming on the offensive line, Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league, Kareem Jackson. Signed Josh Reynolds, Sean Mustafer, Calvin Throckmorton, Cody Barton, Brandon Jones. Drafted Bo Nix, of course, Troy Franklin, Jonah Ellis. Didn't really do enough to plug the huge holes. I mean, Justin Simmons, Lloyd Cushenberry, like those are very good players, and they didn't fill it with comparable players. They just filled it, in my opinion. Their over-under on FanDuel is 5.5.
Well, I believe in the top 5, I said they'd get 6 wins, so I'm saying over.
All right, you're going over. Yeah, that's a tough one. I can see them as a 6-win team. Yeah, I'm going to go over too. I don't hate Bo Nix. I don't think he's going to become the next superstar. But he does look. He fits Sean Payton's offense well. And
I think he's going to surprise people compared to some of the other rookie quarterbacks.
Yes, I've seen people saying that, oh my God, Bo Nix is going to be better than Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. He's the best quarterback in this draft. And I'm like, that would be amazing if everybody missed and, took 4 other quarterbacks ahead of him, 5 quarterbacks ahead of him, and he ended up being the number 1. Like, yeah, I think it would be better than
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I would rather have him than Michael Penix.
How many quarterbacks were taken ahead of Brock Purdy?
A lot. Yeah.
So.
All right, so we're both going over on the Broncos, and last but not least, the Chargers ended last season at 5-12. Fired their head coach and got Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. Lost Austin Eckler, traded Keenan Allen, cut Mike Williams, I believe. Got rid of Gerald Everett, Eric Kendricks, Kenneth Murray, linebackers Michael Davis. They did sign J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards from Baltimore. Hayden Hurst, Poona Ford, Denzel Perryman's a good linebacker. Drafted Joe Alt in the first round, great offensive lineman. Ladd McConkey. And their over-under's 8.5. So Raiders and Broncos taking big dives, according to FanDuel, and the Chargers are going to take a big leap.
Well, I think that's true, but I'm curious. Yeah, my biggest question mark for them is their wide receivers. Losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams is huge, and all they have is Quentin Johnson, who disappointed last year. They drafted Ladd McConkey, and the only one that's been there for a while and done anything is Josh Palmer.
Yeah,
who also hasn't had a big stat season. His biggest year, he had 700 yards. So that's the biggest question mark for them for me, because we know Herbert can throw, but now the people he's throwing to him, can they catch? And as good as Jim Harbaugh is, he can't make them catch. So 8.5, they'd have to be over 500 to beat this. I'm gonna say under.
I agree. I could see them at 7 or 8 wins. Getting to 9 or 10 wins, in my opinion, is going to be tough in the AFC. At least, like you said, unless Quentin Johnson suddenly develops into the number 1 receiver he was supposed to be when they took him, they're going to have to run the ball like 80% of the time. And that's just not the way you win in the NFL anymore. So,
yeah, plus who knows who their starting running back is.
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be Gus Edwards, but they've said J.K. Dobbins going to get a lot of carries, and then they also got Vidal, who they say is going to be a special teamer this year. Like, who knows what's going on with their running backs?
Yeah. I'm curious to see if Jim Harbaugh surprises everybody with a smash-mouth college-style offense that he wants to run, but I'm like, I just don't see that happening, buddy.
Yeah.
If you're down by 14 points, all of a sudden you have to throw. You've got no one to throw to. So.
Yeah.
All right, so going on to the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers, finished last season at 12-5. They lost Sam Darnold, their backup, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell, Arik Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, all on the defense. Deshaun Gibson, Logan Ryan. A lot of defenders that they had to let go. They did sign Josh Dobbs, their backup, pretty dang good. Leonard Floyd, Yotir Gross-Matos, fun name. Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, Devondre Campbell, drafted Ricky Pearsall, Isaac Rendo as a running back. And their over-under is 11.5. So, big thing for the 49ers. They still have McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and Purdy. And that's basically all they need on offense.
Yeah, the big thing to watch this season for them is how Ricky Pearsall does, because that's going to have a huge impact on what we were talking about with Debo or Ayuk.
Yeah. If Pearsall plays really well, we could see Debo traded this season for the trade deadline even.
Yeah. So
their over-under is 11.5. I'm going over. I mean, they won 12 games. I see no reason why they can't win 12 again.
Yeah, they didn't really lose anything too crazy. Or at least not enough to make me think they're going to be worse than they were.
Yeah.
So I'll say over 2. Because who's going to take the wins from them?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you'd have to assume that the Cardinals are going to be good enough to beat them now. And that just historically has not been true.
Or the Seahawks without Pete Carroll now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to add their new coach. But next up, Los Angeles Rams finished last season 10-7. They lost Carson Wentz, their backup. Aaron Donald, obviously the biggest loss for them on the defensive line. Ahkello Witherspoon, Duke Shelley, John Johnson. Signed Jonah Jackson, Tre'Davious White. Cameron Curl, good safety from Washington. Sad we let him go. Drafted Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, Blake Corum in the 3rd round. Their over-under is 8.5. So a little down from last season. I know a lot of questions around the defense without Aaron Donald. What's that going to do?
Yeah, they're at 8.5. They had 10 last season.
Yeah.
Let's say Aaron Donald loses you 2. Now you're at 8, barely under it. I'm going to say they're still going to stay over it. I think they're still good.
I agree. I think Stafford is healthier this season. Cooper Kupp is healthier. I mean, assuming that everybody stays healthy, I could see them going over 8.5 for sure. All right, Seattle Seahawks finished last season 9-8. They lost Drew Lock, who started a couple games for them. Colby Ferguson, Will Disley, both their tight ends. Bobby Wagner, big loss there. Jordan Brooks, Devin Bush, Wandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. A lot of linebackers and safeties. They did trade for Sam Howell to be their new backup. Signed George Fant, Jonathan Hankins, Jerome Baker, Rashawn Jenkins, Kayvon Wallace. Drafted Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, Christian Haynes, guard. And they're over-under 7.5. Big thing for them, they do have a new coach. Is it Brian McDonald? I forget his first name.
I don't know. I was wondering who it was. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's the defensive coordinator from Baltimore. I remember that McDonald. I'm going to put Brian. I don't care. I don't care what his name is. So, yeah, no more Pete Carroll.
Mike.
Still got Geno Smith at quarterback. Oh, Mike, thank you. Geno Smith still their quarterback. So, yeah. Hold on, I got to look over under once again. 7.5. I'm going to go under.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going under. They lost the offensive coordinator's gone. They do have a new offensive coordinator who was in Washington last year. Washington's offense, not the Commanders, but Washington, the college, was good. I just don't believe in Geno Smith. And then when they bench him for Sam Howell, I know Sam Howell can't do it. So, yeah, I'm going under 7.5.
Well, that's a big thing for me too, right? Pete Carroll's gone. He's the one that he was the head coach when Geno had that breakout season. Then last year he was just average. Now he's trying to go back to being good under a new coach, new offense, when Geno could not do that several times for the Jets. Like, I just don't see it there. I see them looking for a quarterback in the draft next year.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks could be that surprise team that goes 3-14 that nobody sees coming. Like, just everything falls apart for them. And Geno Smith plays like ass, and then Sam Howell plays like ass, and they just cannot win a single game or multiple games. So, definitely, I agree. All right, and last team, Arizona Cardinals, finished 4-13. Lost Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore, DJ Humphreys, longtime left tackle, Leke Futu, Antonio Hamilton. Traded for Desmond Ridder and then cut him. Signed DJ Dallas, Jonah Williams, Evan Brown, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Mac Wilson, Sean Murphy-Bunting. Drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., who is supposed to be all-worldly. Darius Robinson, who's going to miss time. Max Melton. Trey Benson looks good. A lot of people. They actually had a lot of draft picks, so we'll see. But FanDuel has their over-under at 7.5, so almost a 4-game jump from last season.
Kyler Murray effect. I'm saying under, since I said they were going to be one of the worst teams. I just don't see anything there that's not the same as it was. Now, granted, here's the thing, and they were talking about this on the radio here. From the Keim era, so a 4 different drafts, there are only 5 players on the team that Keim drafted. 5 total. Where every other team in the league in that same time has 10 to 14. Yeah. So the biggest thing for them, while the names don't mean anything right now because they're just there, with that many draft picks, hopefully that's something that they can build for the future. But for this year, that's just not happening, especially with that defensive line. There's nothing. I can't even name. I'm from here. Listen to the radio all the time. Sports talk. I can't name their starting line. I don't know. Now that Ojulari's hurt and Robinson, the draft pick, is hurt, like if you can't rush if you can't rush the quarterback, if you can't defend the receivers when you can't rush the quarterback, which their secondary has been atrocious lately, then you just can't win. And the defense, for a coach that's a defensive coordinator, or was, to not improve much, if at all, on the defense, just does not fill me with any type of hope for them.
Yeah, I remember going to games, under Bruce Arians and Wisenhunt back in the day, and they'd introduce the players, especially on the defense, and I could name every single one of them. That's they were beloved, they were good. Now I saw Bilal Nichols, who they signed, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Is he still there? I have no idea. The only person I can tell you is Kaiser White. That's the only one I remember because he came from Philly, played well before he got hurt. I couldn't. Zach Collins is still there, but apparently
Kaiser White, who's a middle linebacker, so not even a lineman.
Well, like Zach Collins, I had no idea they moved him to defensive end.
Or Zaven.
Zaven, yeah. So I agree. I'm going under. I mean, sure, the Cardinals could surprise people. It would be a real testament to Jonathan Gannon as a coach to get these guys to play up. But even if the offense, they're like the Commanders, in my opinion. Offense could be very good. It's just the defense is going to drag them right down. Definitely going under 7.5 for me as well.
Yep.
Well, there you go. We have reviewed all 32 teams off seasons.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yes, it is. Next week, we'll get into our predictions for division winners and playoffs and Super Bowl and preview week 1.
Yep, sounds good to me. So that's going to do it for this week, episode 4, our last of the reviews, and we're about to get into it. The season is starting next Thursday. Our next podcast live should be on Wednesday. So if you want to check that out, you can go to tiktok.com/@Coffin Corner Podcast, or go on your TikTok and just search TikTok on your phone and just search for Coffin Corner Podcast, and you can find the live there Wednesday at 7 p.m. Or you can catch the replay of this podcast or the next podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/@Coffin Corner. You can find us on Twitter at Coffin Corners, and you can find us on any podcast any place you can find podcasts, ours will be shouted out to there. So, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, all the podcatchers that you have out there. You can find us any of those places. So hopefully you're doing that. Hopefully you're enjoying it. We're about to get into the meat and potatoes of the season and the podcasts, where everything we thought we knew, we didn't. So that'll be a good time. So join us for that. And until then, we'll be back in a few days, since this is Saturday. Is it Saturday? I'm so lost.
It's Saturday. Yeah.
Since today's Saturday, yeah. Catch us on any of those other days, and we will see you then. So until then, Richie, you got anything else you want to say?
Just that by this time next week, there'll have been 2 games played already. So I'm just jazzed to be watching football.
Absolutely. All right. Until then, we'll catch you guys later. Enjoy your weekend.